Hello, boys and girls out there in Target Solutions land. This is Richard Platt coming to you live from Fire Station 3. Today in the Sugar House District. I'm on duty recording this. We are continuing with the city's first ever fitness professional certification. This is under the authority having jurisdiction. This is an awesome program. I'm going to be bringing to you some cutting edge information regarding assessments. We're going to talk about the CPAT. We're going to talk about the TPT. We're going to be talking about the Wellness Fitness Initiative. This is going to be some awesome stuff, okay? We have 50 slides. Please don't wince at that. This is going to be an amazing, fun, and awesome time. If at any point during this slideshow that you have a question, just raise your hand. I'll call on you. We'll answer that right away, all right? Just kidding. I can't see anybody. This is a recording. That was a joke. Okay, assessments. Why do we do them? When do we do them? How do we do them? What assessment are we going to do? I think the most important question to start with is, why do we do an assessment? Just like EMTs and paramedics out on the street, we're doing an assessment because we need to collect information so that we can make a good decision about where to proceed. An assessment is a method of obtaining information for decision-making purposes. I'll just say that again. There are several types of assessments which can be performed in a health and fitness setting, from like on an EMS scene, from obtaining a blood pressure to getting lab results in the hospital, or assessing how much a trainee can squat or how fast they can run. So here we have the what of assessments. Assessments basically break down into two main groups. We have formal and informal assessments. In general, the assessments that a CFC would encounter will fall into either formal or informal, but one of these five major categories. An initial assessment or beginning assessment of a new hired firefighter or someone just starting to train for the first time may be given a foundational assessment. With a trainee, you may be seeing, just how many air squats they can do for the first time. A formal assessment specifically is the TPT or the CPAT. We're going to collect that information and then make a decision. In some cases, it may be pass or fail. The yearly physical that we do with the University of Utah, that is a formal assessment. An informal assessment would be you're in the gym by yourself and you want to see how much you can bench press for 5 reps. So if you're taking this class, then by now you've probably heard of the Fit to Respond, Fit to Retire program put together by Evan. That's awesome. I love the mantra of Fit to Respond, Fit to Retire. I believe that if we make our people fit to respond, that will also translate to them being fit to retire. So I call this pyramid here the Fit to Respond pyramid. It illustrates how a health assessment is fundamental to physical fitness. You can't start a physical fitness program unless you're healthy. You can't start a physical fitness problem if you have bad knees or a bad heart. You need to get issues like that taken care of before you can start running and lifting weights. A physical fitness program leads to being operationally ready for firefighting. I'll say again, you can't train for physical fitness without an acceptable level of health. This includes good cardiovascular health, mental health, and physical health, as in being free from illness and injury. Every type of health is included in here. Once the matter of health is addressed and it is determined that a trainee is cleared to resume or begin a physical fitness training program, they can begin. We all know how hard a good working fire is by now. I, for one, after the last one, was utterly smoked. I thought I was going to puke in my mask after working in the basement. After a fire, everyone is wasted. Firefighting requires that everyone be in the best physical condition possible for them. Operational readiness is the culmination of a healthy body and a disciplined, consistent training regimen. So here we're going to discuss the rationale of fit to respond and fit to retire. Rationale is a fancy way of saying why, and why is probably the most important question we can ask. So why? The answer is to be fit to respond and to be fit to retire. An assessment, a physical fitness assessment, is a measure of current performance and progress, and can give us an answer to this question: is our team capable of effectively doing the job? I think that effectively also assumes a high degree of safety during an operation. If you can't achieve occupational readiness, then your performance may be unsafe and also ineffective. Let's talk about an example. If a firefighter is experiencing a severe illness, a state of poor physical fitness, or chronic low-grade injury, and I'll admit here, I've found myself saying this when I had some shoulder pain: I can do the job if I need to. This mindset places the individual and the team at risk. Yes, if you have walking pneumonia, you can take a fire hose off the engine and move it to the front door. But the real question is this: can you do this safely and effectively under circumstances that are immediately dangerous to life and health? This is not a grocery store. We're not collecting shopping carts in the rain. We're fighting fires, and our job is really hard. It's really important for us to be ready so that we can stay safe and healthy and go home to our families. So part of the reason why we are training and implementing these assessments is to assist everyone in getting as ready as possible. Currently on the job, we're making use of 3 formal assessments. The TPT is classified as a formal assessment, and it's used for determining work readiness. If our members don't understand why we're using the TPT, they will be less interested in participating in it. I bring this up because I've been proctoring the TPT for several years now, and I just sense and pick up a lot of disinterest about the TPT. So I think it would be a good idea when we have the opportunity to talk about how important it is to be and to promote operational readiness. The TPT, since we have the opportunity while this pyramid is up on the slide, the TPT is going to go at the top yellow portion of the pyramid. It's a test determining, it's an assessment determining operational readiness, and it is also a formal assessment. We have assessments at every level of the fit to respond pyramid. We have assessments in the health level, the fitness level, and the operationally ready level. As I've said before, operational readiness leads to a safe and healthy career. And following a safe and healthy career, you can have an awesome retirement with a sweet beard and the possibility of desert islands. The man pictured here, I think this is from a real story. I think he was a rich guy that just got sick of it all and moved to a desert island with a dog. When I retire, while I hope to give growing a beard like an honest effort, I hope that I can retire with some actual human beings. Everyone here knows how much I like to talk. I would just like some more people to talk to. Yeah, but the goal here is to, in my opinion, help everyone have awesome retirements and awesome lives off the job with their families. Here we have some examples of formal assessments. A formal assessment is collecting data in order to make a decision. Let's talk about the CPAT as an example. The IAFF construct known as the CPAT is a formal test to determine if a firefighter candidate is physically ready to begin training. So it's going to collect the participant's time, and it's going to be pass-fail. The data is the time. The answer is pass-fail. Are they going to continue with training or not? The CPAT was not intended to be used for annual testing of incumbent firefighters. The yearly physical we are using at SLCFD, performed by University of Utah, is a formal assessment for the purpose of recognizing cardiovascular and other health risks. All of these tests collect data and present the data in the form of qualitative or quantitative result, and it lets us make a decision from the results. It assists us in making a decision. The decision could be, does someone need to make some improvements in their diet? Or, like me, does someone need to do some more stretching and eat less chicken thighs? We have some more examples of formal assessments here. Almost everyone has participated in each of these assessments, or at least heard of them. Hopefully you haven't had a 9/11 cancer screening. All of these assessments are data-driven and often used to make decisions in an official capacity. They identify strengths, weaknesses, and areas of improvement, like the FMS does, and are often multifaceted, like the functional movement screen assessment is. For example, the peak assessment evaluates strength, cardiovascular conditioning, flexibility, and body fat percentage. Informal assessments differ from formal assessments in that we're not using the information we collect for decision making. Specifically, we're not using the information we collect for administrative decision making. Let's talk about informal assessments in regard to body composition and strength. While we may do assessments on our own or with a friend while we're working out on our own or off duty, these two tests we may acquire data from these two tests and use it to make informed decisions for our personal goals and training. When we do them in an informal setting on our own or one-on-one with a peer that we may be training, it is probably not going to be used for administrative decision making, such as a fit for duty evaluation would be. Historically, with Salt Lake City Fire Department, the biannual physical has been one of industrial medicine. Current trends in fire department health screenings include identifying cardiovascular risk markers such as C-reactive protein and performing a carotid artery scan, as well as cancer screenings. We know that firefighters are at increased risk of skin cancer, and the medical division has provided voluntary skin cancer screenings in cooperation with the University of Utah. I think these are amazing. I encourage everyone to do them and to promote them on the job. We can also get these done at the Midtown Clinic. The biannual, I would also like to emphasize that the biannual University of Utah industrial physical should not be a substitute for a yearly physical with your primary care doctor. I think this is good information to disseminate on the job as certified fitness coordinators. Another type of assessment is the foundational assessment, and as you can probably determine, a foundational assessment tells us where to begin. For example, we may be determining body fat percentage and perform an informal assessment of a person's body fat with a new trainee so that we can set a realistic goal for a person's weight loss. The functional movement screen offered at Peak can serve as a formal, informal, or foundational assessment. For the past several years, I've scored pretty low on my cardiovascular conditioning at Peak, and it has finally prompted me to perform more than 5 reps of any lift that I do in the gym. I'm finally up to 7 reps on squats. So I use this as an example to show that the FMS at Peak showed me where I am fundamentally for my cardiovascular conditioning and how I can improve. The functional movement screening, or FMS, is an example of a particular type of assessment. And you may have heard me talk about the FMS already. I like it for its ability to predict the risk of injury in athletes. I think that's some information that we could disseminate on the job. or that we can talk about how we can spread this information with Jordan at peak. However, though, it is also important to know that a good score in the FMS does not translate to a reduction of injury when we're wearing turnouts and going at full speed doing firefighter stuff. If you were to find yourself working with a firefighter that needs help getting stronger, you would probably start with an informal foundational strength assessment. There are many different ways that you can do this. For example, the FMS could be used as a foundational strength assessment. It does test for strength. I think that assessing their performance in the basic barbell lifts could be one method if the trainee was already oriented to and trained on the barbell movements. Note here that it says a 1 rep max assessment. It does not actually need to be a true 1 rep max, and we will discuss this on the next slide. So the performance of these lifts will do a great job at showing how strong a person is or where they can improve, but unfortunately they require a lot of training just to be able to do the movements themselves. Continuing on with strength assessments. Strength is considered to be the foundation of firefighter fitness and occupational readiness. An individual's strength assessment is ongoing. Picture shown here is a formula that may be well known by people that have used the 5-3-1 program. This was the first place that I learned it. The 5-3-1 program is a method for strength training. I would recommend it to anyone. But it's not a big deal if you don't know what this program is or have never heard of it. Notice that following our calculation of the T1RM, that stands for theoretical 1 rep max, we arrived at this weird value of 157.5. So most gyms don't have the available equipment to load 157.5 pounds on a barbell. It is possible. The Rogue Company manufactures and can supply plate systems that would allow someone to do this. However, realistically, we're not going to encounter this at a Vasa, Golds, or a fire station. So if doing this on your own or with a trainee, the most appropriate action would be to round down to the nearest 5-pound increment. So for the given example, we would document the trainee's theoretical 1 rep max to be 155 pounds. The theoretical 1 rep max calculation could be used for informal assessment purposes. It could be used for program design or to measure your own personal progress. I use it all the time just to compare one set of squats one week to a smaller set of squats from a previous week. For example, also if you wanted to compare two performances, such as a bench press of 225 for 3 reps to a bench press of 185 for 6 reps. Here we have some examples of flexibility assessments. Most notable, as I've used this as an example several times, is the functional movement screen. It tests flexibility with sit and reach and shoulder elevation. The Gherkin protocol is the method used at Peak Fitness and is a modified version of VO2 max. Your score is determined when you reach your max heart rate and stay in that zone for 15 seconds. This is also utilized in what's called the WFI protocol. We're going to get to that in a couple more slides. Okay, good news. There are less than 50 slides. In the beginning, I think I said that there were 50 slides. I think actually there's only about 32. So thank you for sticking with me this far. I hope it wasn't totally boring. Thank you if you stayed in the room the entire time and didn't just let the slideshow play. If you left the room and just let the slideshow play, I'm sorry, but you missed a whole lot of really important stuff. and it's impossible to go back. Those that did stick around, I think they're going to be thankful that for that information I gave everyone, and how to always survive a bear attack, and how to also be friends with the bear and have him never attack you again and be able to take him home. Anyways, this is a good opportunity to take a break. We're more than halfway done, and we're going to be talking about a particular type of assessment going on here forward. So this is a good opportunity to get up and go get a cup of coffee. I'll tell you some interesting facts that I learned about caffeine recently in a great book I'm reading called Why We Sleep by Dr. Walker. So a cup of coffee may have up to 200 milligrams of caffeine, and caffeine has a half-life of approximately 5 hours. I love coffee. I'm going to go get one in about 2 minutes. So as you know intuitively, caffeine combats sleepiness by blocking the chemical responsible for producing the sensation of feeling sleepy. That chemical the paramedics will recognize is adenosine. That was a huge surprise to me. Never expected to find adenosine there. Anyways, adenosine is responsible for producing the sensation of sleep pressure. And unfortunately, drinking coffee late in the day may make it difficult to fall asleep by blocking your sleep pressure. So, drink all the coffee you want, but I would just like to remind you to do so responsibly. Thank you. So from here forward, we will still be discussing assessments, but now we're going to spend the next 11 slides talking about one assessment in particular, and that assessment is what is known as the WFI assessment. First, let's explain this a little bit. The International Association of Firefighters has a program called the Wellness Fitness Initiative. That's what WFI stands for. And they have just recently released the 4th edition of their manual this year in 2018. So everything that I'm going to present is available in the 4th edition of the WFI manual in Appendix A. I've just reviewed it and compressed it for this presentation. If you would like to review the WFI manual yourself, you can access it through the IFF's website, but you need to set up a username and password. I believe that it was in the mid-90s when the International Association of Firefighters and the International Association of Fire Chiefs saw a need to increase the health and fitness for firefighters. They got together and formed what was called the Fire Service Joint Labor Management Task Force, along with 10 other cities across the country. If I remember right, some of those departments were FDNY, Austin, Seattle, to name a few, so really big departments. They got together and developed the Wellness Fitness Initiative. So this is a wellness and fitness program for firefighters by firefighters. By now you've probably heard of the CPAT, or maybe even taken it yourself. It was designed and managed under the IFF Wellness Fitness Initiative. The IFF has also created the Peer Fitness Trainer certification, which is a PFT, a Peer Fitness Trainer, is an agent of the WFI to help assist firefighters with physical fitness training, general.
Hello, where is anybody?
Oh, thanks, Guy, for talking on the speaker while I'm trying to do this. I'm not going to stop. We're going to keep going. So the WFI. The Peer Fitness Trainer is an agent of the WFI to assist firefighters with physical fitness training. They only offer general nutrition advice. They perform physical fitness assessments, and they administer the CPAT. You'll see that there's an ACE emblem there. The American Council on Exercise helped provide the curriculum for the physical fitness training and helped with the certification process for the IFF. So PFT is an IAFF class, but the certification is through ACE. Something else of interest is the peer mental health people. There is also an IAFF certification for them as well. So this is a holistic all-encompassing program that the IFF is continually working on and helping us with. So the IFF has two formal assessments that you should be familiar with by now, the CPAT and the WFI assessment. You might ask, why don't we have our applicants go through the TPT? Why don't we have the people testing to get on the job go through the TPT? Or why did we ever develop the TPT in the first place? How come we never used the CPAT? The answer is that the CPAT was never designed for incumbent testing. It was developed to test whether or not an individual was ready to begin their training to be a firefighter. Legally, institutions can't require that an applicant be familiar with specific firefighting tasks, such as wearing an SCBA or carrying hose up a flight of stairs and turnouts. The fundamental differences between the CPAT and the WFI assessment are highlighted in bold. The CPAT is a pass-fail. WFI, it gives you a score, but you're not failing anyone or sending anyone home. The CPAT is testing to see if someone is ready to begin recruit school. The WFI assessment facilitates an exercise prescription. It shows someone how they improved from last year and where they should take their training for the next year. We can also go on and talk about the TPT at this time as well, and just reiterate that the TPT is a good assessment for determining if an incumbent firefighter is prepared for the rigors of structural firefighting. Shown here is the outline of the WFI Fitness Assessment. It begins with a mandatory pre-evaluation and health questionnaire, and from there you will see that it's very comparable to the FMS. Test for body composition. We're going to do some mobility and flexibility, speed, power, strength, and cardiovascular conditioning. Before the WFI assessment can begin, there needs to be a pre-evaluation. All personnel shall be medically cleared within the last 12 months prior to participating in the WFI assessments. And furthermore, all personnel shall be health screened prior to conducting the WFI assessments. What that entails is you would go through a health questionnaire form. Pretty comparable to, more detail than what we do for the TPT, but the same principle. The pre-screening health questionnaire is looking for these items right here. And if anything like this pops up, just like in the TPT, you're not going to do it. So if the person has chest pain, recent unexplained loss of consciousness, loss of balance due to dizziness, recent injury that's going to get worse by doing the assessment, if they're on prescribed drugs that inhibit physical activity, chronic infectious disease, if they're pregnant, or any other reason that they have that they shouldn't be taking the test, they're not going to take the test. The WFI assessment does need to go in a certain order, and it starts with body composition. There are many different methods for body fat percentage. I think we've all been through the bod pod by now. I always feel really uncomfortable standing there in my underwear in front of whatever 20-year-old woman they have working there that week. Skin fold testing is reliable, convenient, and cost-effective, but the drawbacks of skin fold testing is that it usually requires a practiced technician. You just have to do a lot of them to get good at them. So the WFI chooses to use a waist to hip measurement. And what you do is you measure the waist circumference and the hip circumference, and then you divide it and you get the ratio. This requires only a flexible tape measure, and it's a lot easier to learn, and it gives you an answer that's pretty good. It's simple, reliable, accurate, and economical. And you will find that those four words, simple, reliable, accurate, and economical, are an underlying theme for the WFI assessment. The next test in the standard progression of the WFI assessment is mobility and flexibility. And this seems like a pretty intuitive way to progress, kind of like you do the body fat percentage testing, and then you go next to your warm-up. This could kind of be looked at as a warm-up for everything else. So to test flexibility, we use the straight leg raise and the shoulder reach. You perform 3 straight leg raises with a 30-second rest in between. And these pictures are taken right out of the manual, depending on where the leg is able to stretch to. That is their score for that method. You see there's also a shoulder reach, and I think we've all done this with the functional movement screen up at Peak as well. My shoulder scores are really bad, so that's one thing that the FMS has encouraged me to work on. Speed and power are measured with a vertical jump, and that is used with either an electronic jump mat that measures the time that you've been off the ground, or what's called a vertec. And a vertec is a long pole with colored pieces of plastic, and the person stands there and jumps up as high as they can, hitting the pieces of plastic. I actually love doing this. I think it's really fun. The vertical jump is reliable, it's valid, it's cost effective, it's portable, it's easy to administer, and the vertical jump employs a formula to calculate the power produced to propel the body upward. A certified fitness professional may also choose to document observations regarding a performer's control of knee and low back motion during the takeoff and landing. So as fitness professionals, we should always be trying to help our clients. If we see that they're landing really bad and they're getting some frontal knee plane movement, in my presentation of injury, we know that frontal knee plane movement can lead to knee injury. It would be a really good idea to help our candidates at this time avoid a knee injury by coaching them on landing and jumping. The WFI uses the Gherkin protocol with a treadmill or a step mill to determine one's aerobic capacity. And just like at Peak with the FMS, they increase the speed on the treadmill until the candidate reaches their target heart rate for about 15 seconds. The test culminates with a measure of the person's muscular strength and endurance. To do that, we use push-ups at a rate of 40 push-ups per minute set to a metronome down to 5 inches above the ground. The max score on this test is 80 push-ups. Pictured here is a person performing horizontal pull-ups. The back is parallel to the ground and they pull chest to bar. These are a lot like barbell rows. Again, these are also at a rate of 40 per minute with a max score of 80 within 2 minutes. And then the last exercise we do is the side plank for a max of 4 minutes, and this is performed on each side. Each of the 5 testing scenarios has a unique set of circumstances which will lead a tester to stop the test. I didn't go over these for each of the slides, but some of these examples would include joint or muscle pain, failure of the equipment, angina, failure of the heart rate to increase on the treadmill, severe fatigue, cheating or doing some type of incorrect technique and having been warned on it 3 times. If someone reaches max repetitions, you can just stop the test. Exceeding their heart rate on the treadmill, the participant wants to stop, could be a reason to stop, or a medical condition is exacerbated, or they fail to maintain continuous motion, meaning they pause on the push-ups or pull-ups. Okay, we're there. You see those magic words at the top of the slide. Summary. That means we did it. Only a couple there. Before we close, you guys get to listen to a couple Richie rants, but thanks for sticking with the slideshow. I love assessments. Assessments are very important in EMS. We can't make any decisions about are we going to the hospital or what hospital are we going to without doing a good assessment. And in physical fitness training, the same principle is there. The assessment is the catalyst for decision making, and how we train our new members, how we help our incumbent members is dependent on not just assessment findings, but good assessment findings. And just to wrap up the Wellness Fitness Initiative assessment, I'd like to say that it's been used for a long time with departments across the country, and similar to the FMS, it's been used as a good tool for exercise prescription and reducing injury. And therefore, with those two considerations, it's going to promote longevity in a person's career. Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking like, holy cow, how many summary slides does he need? Let's do this. The answer to that is as many as I want. This is my slideshow. If you think it's hard to listen to 30 slides, you should try recording 30 slides. It was a good time. I'm having this as my final slide because it's an example of everything we talked about. It shows you everything we have talked about. It shows you where the formal assessments may lie in the pyramid, where the formal and informal assessments are, and how we fundamentally just have to start with a health assessment. I didn't mention previously that mental health is an important part of physical fitness. If a person is depressed and lonely and anxious, they're not going to want to get out and go to the gym. In relation to that as well, physical fitness can improve mental health. So my final words on this are the operationally ready pyramid is a culmination of intelligent assessments in the areas of health and physical fitness. It relies on a foundation of health, ongoing physical fitness, and results in operational readiness. Every step of the pyramid has in it certain types of assessments. The department participates in biannual physicals, which are formal assessments, seeking data to make a decision. While utilizing prescribed or personal physical fitness programs, one may choose to assess their progress through informal means, such as calculating a theoretical 1-rep max on a set of 3 heavy squats, or like comparing their last Fran time or whatever CrossFit thing you're doing that day. Finally, the TPT is an example of a formal test assessing one's operational readiness. The very last thing I would like to say is no sole assessment is the holy scripture of health and fitness. No sole program is the holy scripture of health and fitness. Any of these methods mentioned should just be used as tools to take into consideration the big picture. And Silverthorne.